One thing that I want to mention, I had a conversation with Dr. Smith yesterday. He raised another thing that is quite important because we have this tendency of being told, we are told that we should eat our bright in terms of vegetables, in terms of that your green, your yellow, your what is other color. In terms of these bright colors and not knowing that it contains vitamin A, whereas vitamin A is very wrong for your health in a way. It actually affects your gut in a way of how can I put this? He spoke on in terms of vitamin A toxicity, whereas it can be in a way you can get it from your parents or you can get it from the food that we're eating. In terms of you spoke about processed food, it's something that I feel like something that you don't take a look at. And one thing that I was aware of the fact that through me actually searching for videos and trying to actually educate myself in terms of the conversation around nutrition, and I found that most of the food is processed, and it's something that I feel like people in America are not fighting in a way, and I feel like that's why most people tend to eat fast food when as well it is told that the most country that has obese people is America, and they even make jokes about that when it comes to these TV shows. And I just want to actually get more into the circadian biology and mental health in general. So, what challenges have you faced when helping clients address their mental health through circadian biology, and how have you overcome these challenges?
You mentioned a good point there. You mentioned people who wake up with their phone and that's the first thing they see is that light from their phone. That was one of the things that I did. I had my first class would start at 5:15 a.m. So I would usually get up at like 4:30. And the first thing I would look at is my phone, and I would follow these people on Instagram for motivation and search through Instagram, basically 15 minutes and scrolling through that and being exposed to that type of light that you get from that phone. So the phone emits, it's typically anywhere between 5,500 to 6,500 Kelvin is the color temperature of your phone. And it's basically equivalent to like 12 to 1 p.m. So like the sunrise, it's around 1,800 Kelvin. And then when the sun sets, it's around 16,000 Kelvin. So obviously there's a cycle to it, and we're supposed to be getting it at a certain time of the day. So that was probably one of the big things that helped lead me to my hormonal issues that I had. As far as the phone goes, a video where you can turn your phone red or orange. And I think there's even things now that Apple or Android makes where you can take out some of the blue light. I kind of think that it doesn't do that much. I mean, it's like 10, 15% it's going to do, but most people need a lot more strength on that. I don't know if you could probably link it up in the show notes, but it's improvementwarriorfitness.com/redphone. That'll take you to the video showing you how to do that. And you can take it off whenever you need it. So typically when I'm out here in the sun, I can't see the phone as well. So I take one aspect of it off so I can see it a little better. Yeah. I forget your original question.
So in terms of, I spoke a lot in terms of these things. And I was speaking in terms of perspective on circadian biology. What challenges have you faced when helping clients address their mental health through circadian biology, and how have you overcome these challenges?
When I work with clients, it's basically we go through a success session. So they get a huge questionnaire, basically going over their nutrition, over their fitness past, but mostly it's about their environments. Because when health breaks down, it's going to be your environment that is the key. So me being out here, I'm basically completely naked except for a tan through bathing suit. So somebody else walking down the sidewalk wearing sunglasses and has AirPods in their ear, that's a completely different environment. Obviously, I'm grounded too. One is a healthy environment. One is a unhealthy environment. So it's basically, we work with you to find what is going to be the top thing to move you forward. So what is the thing that's hurting you the most? And then what is the thing that is going to move you forward the most? And again, we come back to sunrise is like the key, because that's when the sun comes up, there's no UV. It's just red and basically blue light, which helps to set that circadian rhythm, which is going to help release the proper hormones. And then when UV light comes out, that's when the hormones get turned off. So that's kind of like the circadian rhythm of hormones. There's certain ones that will come out when we eat, when we're getting hungry, all that stuff. But yeah, finding the environment that is hurting them the most. So the ones that I tell people to stop doing the most is no phones on the head, no AirPods. If the phone goes in the pocket, put it on airplane mode. There's EMF cases you can have. Wi-Fi at night, turn that off. If you can, switch to Ethernet. You'll get a more smoother connection, and plus you'll be able to sleep better. I mean, everything comes back to sleep, because that's how we regenerate. If your sleep sucks, so if you can't get into stage 3 or stage 4 sleep, which is REM sleep and deep sleep, you're not going to be able to recover, so to speak. So you'll be running off the same proteins, you'll be running off the same cells that you used yesterday. And if that continues, basically that's when the big diseases come out, like heart disease, stroke, cancer, whatnot. So,
and I just want to go back to what you said in terms of phones and the lighting, as something that I've seen it, but in a way of I didn't know what effect did it have upon our mental well-being. And funny thing is the fact that when we buy those here in South Africa, it's quite different, because the culture is very different when it comes to light and when it comes to LED lights. The colors that you mentioned, especially red. And one of my friends has those LED lights, and we don't use them as for actually receiving the light, but we use them just to make the room more compelling in a way of decorating. It's quite a fascinating thing when you raise something like this in terms of lights, of having any that positive effect on us. And something that actually just recently mentioned, deep sleep. I once heard it on a podcast, but I didn't actually comprehend what it actually meant. And can you dive deeply on that in terms of entailing what is deep sleep?
Well, I'll share a personal story of mine about sleep. Yeah. So when I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, I got a job working third shift. So I was working, it started at 7 p.m. and it went to 6 a.m. And I did that Monday through Thursday. The first week on that Friday, I remember I was watching Christian Bale in The Machinist, and I remember falling asleep around 5 o'clock on the couch. And then I woke up at 6:30, and I turned on the TV, and to my surprise, there was football on TV. And I was like, why is there college football on Friday night? So this was before they put college football on Friday night. Now college football is on every day. So, but I was like, why is college football on it Friday night? I found out it was actually 6:30 the next day. So I slept for 25 and a half hours. So that's just proof of how much it can mess up your circadian rhythm and whatnot. But yeah, third shift is one of the worst things for your health and for your sleep, obviously, because we're supposed to be asleep in the dark. Because darkness is just as important as light. One of the big tips on there is your room should be as dark as possible. So if you're in the room, you should be able to hold your hand in front of your face and not see your hand. So that's how dark it should be. A colder room, because melatonin is trying to lower your body temperature so it can come out and basically restore the mitochondria, restore the cells so we can get into a deep sleep, so we can get into REM sleep. Because melatonin is the thing that basically controls our mitochondrial DNA. So most people know we have a nuclear genome. That's basically our DNA. And then we also have a mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA only controls for 37 genes, as opposed to the nuclear genome, which has thousands and thousands of genes. The mitochondria is what helps to, when we're sleeping, it's supposed to engage two processes known as autophagy and apoptosis. Autophagy is basically you're recycling the bad stuff. It's like your phone charger. You're charging your phone back up to 100%. And then apoptosis is basically you're finding the really bad cells, the really bad mitochondria, and you're just taking it out to the trash. And so those get eventually replaced. So, in terms of, those are two big sleep tips. Cold, you want to make your room colder than normal, and also very, very dark. And artificial light at night, you want to try and block all the light coming in from the room. So I always recommend the blackout curtains and whatnot, especially if you have street lights. Where I live, there's street lights outside. They're always on at night. And so those are a couple sleep tips. But because everybody's day starts at midnight, you should be asleep for it. So you should be asleep by at least 11 p.m. And the earlier you can get to bed, the better. I mean, within reason, but you don't want to be going to bed when it's dark. So before artificial light, and like our ancestors, we would always go to sleep when it got dark, and we'd wake up and do our things. Because I mean, if you go out in the middle of the night, like a lot of people do, like I used to do in college, and stay up till midnight or 12:30 or 1 or 2, if you went out back when our ancestors were alive, you were going to get eaten by some tiger, hippo, or alligator or something like